Good evening and welcome to Millennium Stage. And now, please give a warm welcome to Betty Entzminger on behalf of the Coalition for the African Americans in the Performing Arts.
Good evening. Jewish American and African Americans. In years past, our ancestors have endured pain unlike other races. We have been through a lot, and in some cases still endured pain. But cultures throughout time have withstood difficulty, horrors, and atrocities. We can look to society and recognize that different cultures have had much difficulty and are often entangled with trials, tribulations, confrontation, and defiance. To be on one accord with each other in relationships among races and cultures of people has indeed become more challenging, but it is not impossible. It is our hope and prayer tonight as we bring two cultures together, two poignant and trying backgrounds, two distinct yet similar circumstances, two people from different cultures yet share comparable stories. It is our hope and prayer tonight to bridge diverse communities through the celebration of culture, which is incredibly important in this time of political turbulence. Two traditions who, in this unique musical tribute, we can not only hope to be on one accord, but the performances will echo the beautiful chords of music throughout the evening. Welcome to the Coalition of African American in Performing Arts production of One Accord, a musical tribute to Jewish American and African American composers. Welcome. Two people, two cultures, brought together in music today for the next hour. One can say that it is rare that any single classical music concert event, such as this one, can find itself caught in the web of contemporary culture and political crisis. We have come to regard concert life and the music of the concert hall as essential matters of entertainment and aesthetic taste entirely divorced from the nasty world of politics and social conflict. After all, music has been known for centuries as the universal language. Coming together tonight in that one language and on one accord is one small way we can join together in our similarities rather than in our differences, recognizing our likeness and our parallels. Sharing our past, but look toward the future. Even though there are some who welcome this sort of distant in terms of history, this has not always been the case. Musical life has been a significant part of political life. Tonight, you'll hear the music of Jewish American and African American composers, Bernstein and Joplin, Previn and Bonds, Gershwin and King. We will also hear a contemporary Jewish composer perform original pieces of style of the African-American composer Scott Joplin. This concert was planned in the knowledge and hope that we can have the music come together, explore different styles, and appreciate the similarities. Let us draw from tonight a message of one accord by hearing One Accord. Our first selection, composed by Leonard Bernstein, is being celebrated this year for his 100th birthday. The selection was first commissioned by First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy and performed right here at the Kennedy Center. It's amazing, right? As a part of a larger work called Mass. You might say this is CAAPA's small birthday tribute to this great composer, Bernstein. Let us hear Simple Song, performed by soprano Arianna Zukerman. I think I just heard an angel, wouldn't you agree? Arianna Zukerman. Jews have supposed that they, more than any other group, could and did emphasize with the plight of blacks, and that blacks recognized this. Jewish newspapers early in the 20th century, compared to the black movement, out of the South to the exodus from Egypt, noting that both blacks and Jews lived in the ghetto, and described anti-black riots in the South as programs. Even European Jews voiced compassion for the American black. In fact, Uncle Tom's Cabin was translated into Yiddish and Hebrew. It is hoped that this concert can contribute to the current political debate by presenting a moment of history when matters were different. Not nostalgia, but rather the exploration of different models from which to draw inspiration for the present and future. The composers on this program, including Andre Previn, born into a Jewish family, and integrated African-American materials in his work, did so in ways which earned the respect and admiration of their African-American contemporaries and colleagues. By the same token, composer of African-American descent like Margaret Bonds was integrated European tradition with African-American tradition, did so in ways which earned the respect and admiration of their non-African-American contemporaries and colleagues. There is perhaps no better indication of these reciprocal relationships than the use made in our next selection, composed by Andre Previn, I'm Not a Boy. While the theme of a streetcar named Desire, from which the song is derived, explored that of basic human nature's need for connection with another person, or our next selection could take lines from Previn's work and apply them to the relationship between the Jewish and Black communities wanting to connect. Let's listen to Issachah Savage as he performs I'm Not a Boy.
I'm not a boy, she says. I'm not getting any younger, she says. I know it's true, and her time is running out. She wants to know you, Blanche. She wants to know you. You know when it's the right thing, you just know it, and you do it. You just do it. That is all there is to love, to true love. But sometimes, when you lose the one you love, your one true love, what do? You still believe in love, the true love. No matter what you've been through, you still need to love.
I love music. Did you feel the thunder in your seat, the vibration? Woo, thank you. A mid-century Jewish American tended to regard their African American contemporaries as allies. Both communities experienced in recent and distant history characteristics of oppression, discrimination, prejudice, and the brutality of violence. The African American community did not regard the Jews as the quintessential example of the American white oppressor, but in fact viewed the Jews as a comrade in the struggle. The fact of slavery and the disappointment stemming from the era of Reconstruction were more recent than they are today. The idea that the poor and disenfranchised immigrant Jewish population that fled to America at the turn of the century and their descendants were at the root of white racism in America was decidedly implausible. The fact that European Jews looked at white enabled them to assimilate, to escape poverty and the ghetto, and experience a security and prosperity without parallel in the history of the Jewish diaspora. This has made the adoption within segments of the African American community of the distorted rhetoric and the lies of European anti-Semitism seem reasonable even today. Old-fashioned anti-Semitism might serve as an easy way to explain to new generations the inexplicable and inexcusable, that is, failure of American society in the second half of the last century, and bring social and economic equality and justice to the African American community. The credo shared by all composers on this program included faith in the social and economic potential of democracy, and the hope that neither a distinct white nor black identity would emerge, but instead a unique combination. More to the point, the Jewish American composers represented here rejected the idea that they were prisoners of a heritage, of something that was truly Jewish. In fact, they turned to the music of the African American experience because it seemed to be at the heart of what they dreamed they would be a part of, an American in which they could feel comfortable and celebrate. Our next selection is a piece composed by Scott Joplin. Joplin's ragtime style combined the classical European tradition with African dance rhythm and the musical atmosphere from work songs, gospel hymns, and spirituals. His ability to seamlessly create a new style that blended African syncopation with European forms and harmonies brought African American music into mainstream America for the first time. Let's listen to Sam Post performing one of Scott Joplin's moderate but most beautiful pieces. Talking about gifted hands. Ooh. Okay. The works by Joplin Bonds and composer Betty Jackson King reflect their conviction that the African American experience was at the root of American culture identity. There was no separate white alternative, no shred of white supremacist ideology found. We can safely say that the many blacks believed that the European symphonic tradition needed, for its own sake, the materials of African American experience. What is now sometimes belittled as a male-dominated, purely European expressive art was seen as a vehicle for the powerful expression of the ideas and sentiments of an African American woman composer in Betty Jackson King. Today, we think of the concert hall, public with music, without thinking that the concert hall was Eurocentric and thus subject to avoidance because it was not multicultural. As diversity has become the new buzzword, and even the major prize founded by Jewish-born Joseph Pulitzer, we recognize that recently Kendrick Lamar has won for his hip-hop music and its path to the mainstream. This is also part of a coalition for the African Americans in the performing arts. On Credo, we have had for the last 14 years that of bringing color to the classics. The next two selections, one by Gershwin and the other by Bonds, a man and a woman of two completely different backgrounds, remind us that in our current way of thinking about these issues, we have stripped both the past and the present of individuality and diversity. Just as there is no single definition of the Jewish, neither there is of African American. There never has been. The first song, written by George Gershwin, speaks to needing protection and help. He originally approached the song as an up-tempo jazz tune, and his brother, Ira, suggested that it might work better as a ballad. George ultimately agreed. Still, we hear the influence of Black music. On the other hand, the second selection you will hear is by composer Margaret Bonds, who expresses in her lyrics, speaking of the children of Israel. She was clearly optimistic with the lyrics as she wrote, "Yes, she did. Yes, he did. Talk about the children of Israel. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He brought joy, joy, joy into my heart. Tell him that the victory has won." Clearly, both compositions were inspired by the culture, circumstances, and emotions of the other. Once again, a kindred spirit between two cultures.
There's a saying old, says that love is blind. Still we're often told, seek and ye shall find. So I'm gonna seek a certain lad I've had in mind. Looking everywhere, haven't found him yet. He's the big affair I cannot forget. Only man I ever think of with regret. I'd like to add his initial to my monogram. Tell me, where is the shepherd for this lost lamb? There's a somebody I'm longing good to one who watch over me. Although he may not be the man some girls think of as handsome, to my heart he carries the key. Won't you tell him please to put on some speed? Follow my lead. Oh, how I need someone to watch over me. Someone to watch over
You can tell the world about this. You can tell the nation about that. Tell them what Jesus has done. Tell them that the Comforter has come. And he brought joy, joy, joy to my soul. He took my feet out the mercy clay. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He placed them on a rock to stay. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. You can tell the world about this. You can tell the nation about that. Tell them what Jesus has done. Tell them that the Comforter has come. And he brought joy, joy, joy to my soul. The Lord done just what he said. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He healed the sick and raised the dead. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. You can tell the world about this. You can tell the nation about that. Tell them what Jesus has done. Tell them that the Comforter has come. And he brought joy, great joy to my soul. And he brought joy, great joy to my soul.
Are you all having a great time? Woo, let's give the performers another rousing round of applause. Talking about amazing. Woo. It is hoped that in the encounter with this wonderful and partly off, unfamiliar music on this program, we can be reminded of how things might be different. The idea of cultural diversity based on discrete units which are somehow ethical, authentic, and unsullied by the other is, like our society, challenging. Both cultures have experienced suffering in many ways. The Jewish community with Egypt and the Holocaust, and Black Americans with slavery and Jim Crow. Both cultures have experienced the trials of gross discrimination. If the art of music can play a role in politics and society, then let us acknowledge that it constitutes a creative bonding of being on one accord, that of the universal language which mirrors the essential qualities of each individual creator, player, and listener. This is an arena where affection and respect as evidence in each piece of this music on this program, can be achieved so that it can be broadened beyond the reach of notes played and heard, truly on one accord and in one accord. Our next three selections were weaved together on one accord, reflecting an affection, honesty, and respect in the composer's confidence. They express that everything is at the disposal of the creator and that nothing is off limits. Though Joplin's music is well known today, another African-American ragtime composer, James Scott, deserves equal credit for his ragtime composition at the turn of the 20th century. And this first piece, our own living composer, Sam Post, has taken the beginning of a piece by Mr. Scott and spun it out in his own new style of ragtime, creating a musical tribute to one of the original masters of the genre. His piano selection is followed by songs by two Black composers, Chicago-born Betty Jackson King and Cleveland-born H. Leslie Adams. The first selection, Right Up in the Chariot, was written by choral director, educator, keyboard artist, lecturer, and publisher Betty Jackson King. King felt that music was her life. She lived it, expressed it, expanded it, and above all, shared it. Her words could be speaking of the redemption that Jewish Americans and African Americans share in their religious history, as she lays claim in her lyrics of riding in the chariot. She then asks, "Are you ready for the journey?" Exclaiming, "Oh yes, I'm waiting for the chariot because I'm ready to go." Much like the second composer, Cleveland-born H. Leslie Adams, the composer of opera, symphony, cantata, ballet, chamber of music, and art songs, expresses himself through his work, the selection prayer. Adams is known as being extremely gracious and generous. His students have been quoted as saying, "It was a delight to be coached by such a marvelous musician whose gentle spirit helped in bringing his works to life." And how appropriate, then, that our last solo selection is a plea and a prayer asking which way to go, which crown to put on my head, claiming he does not know. How appropriate in these times and in times past, during the Holocaust and slavery, that so many social and cultural ideals we once took for granted are no longer so clear. Composer Adams asks, "Way to go." Let's listen to the next three songs reflecting the first, the era of ragtime, a trying time in this country when Jews and Blacks were traveling along a similar road, Jews as immigrants coming through Ellis Island, and Blacks newly freed from slavery, participating in the great migration from south to north. The similarity and exodus of sorts is once said on one accord. It is seen, studied, and portrayed in the popular musical stage show of the same name, Ragtime. The second song is a song of redemption and hope, which takes us on a journey, traveling again in the eyes of anticipation, expectation, and realization. And the third solo piece is a prayer, reckoning to a time when all we can do is beseech a higher power for an answer.
in the chariot soon in the morning, and I hope I'll join the band. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me, and I hope I'll join the band. Gonna walk and talk with Jesus sooner in the morning. Walk and talk with Jesus sooner in the morning. Walk and talk with Jesus sooner in the morning, and I hope I'll join the band. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me, and I hope I'll join the band. Gonna chatter with the angels sooner in the morning. Chatter with the angels sooner in the morning. Chatter with the angels sooner in the morning, and I hope I'll join the band. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me, and I hope I'll join the band. Oh, have mercy. Oh, have mercy. Oh, have mercy, and I hope I'll join the band. Lord, in the morning,
I ask you this, which way to go? I ask you this, which sin to bear? Which crown to put upon my head? I do not know. Lord God, I do not know. I ask you this, which way to go? I ask you this, which sin to bear? Which crown to put upon I do not know.
Sampos, Arianna Zukerman, and Issachah Savage. Now, before we have our final selection, let us welcome to the stage the co-founder and chairwoman of the Coalition for African American in Performing Arts, Pamela Simpson, along with CAAPA's executive director, Terry Allen, to share a few words. Come on, you guys. I know you could do better than that. It's been an amazing evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My name is Pamela Simonson. I'm the co-founder and chair of the board of directors for the Coalition for African Americans in the Performing Arts. And thank you for being here this evening. I would like for our amazing artists to come out on the stage so we can all give them another round of applause. Narrator Betty Entzminger. Soprano Arianna Zukerman.
Yay. Yay.
Tenor Issachah Savage.
Yay.
Composer Sam Post.
Yay.
And Maestro Dr. Lester Green.
Yay. And you know, we always do a teaching moment here at CAAPA, the Coalition for African Americans in the Performing Arts. The teaching moment is this. The next time you go to a location where there's performers, and there's a young lady that's performing, a woman, and you want to give her accolades, and you want to applause, you say, brava.
Brava.
And for a gentleman,
Brava.
and for a gentleman, and you want to give him accolades, you say, bravo.
Bravo.
And for an ensemble, and you want to give us accolades, you would say, bravi.
Bravi.
So for Arianna Zukerman,
Brava.
for Issachah Savage, Sam Post, Dr. Lester Green,
Bravo.
and for Betty Entzminger,
Brava.
and for all of them tonight.
Bravi.
Bravi. And for yourselves.
Bravi.
Bravi. You know, we've been serving this area for the past 15 years or so. We just became 501c3 3 years ago to help bring color to the classics. We do that by supporting Black classical musicians. So I want to if you could please indulge me by helping me share what we are doing. Would you help me now? Okay. So what I'd like for you to do is help me say what we're doing. Bringing color to the classics. Let's do it together. What are we doing?
Bringing color to the classics.
Now look at your neighbor, and what are we doing?
Bringing color to the classics.
Give yourselves a big hand. Thank you. So if you look at our acronym, CAAPA, we do it by community outreach. We do it by arts education. We do it by audience development, performance opportunities, and arts partnerships. Our wide range of programs, if you could please avail yourselves to our information booth back in the back of the auditorium. We do have a scholarship program. We have a Meet the Composers Seminars program. We have our STAR Career Development program. We have our Sing for Seniors recital series. We have a performance series where one of the highlights of our performance series during the course of the year is our Sopranos Sleigh concert. Did you hear that? Sopranos Sleigh. Now, we have a male counterpart to the Sopranos Sleigh concert coming up on June the 2nd, right at the Public Playhouse in Cheverly, Maryland. It's called Men in Black, and it's Mozart to Motown. Men in Black, so put that on your calendar. We've recently partnered with the Korean American Cultural Arts Foundation. We did a program called Seoul, as in Seoul, Korea, to Seoul. And that was in tribute to the Olympics and also Black History Month. We've also, of course, this program today, we're very honored and very proud to bring you the music of African American and Jewish American composers. You've been enjoying yourselves? Excellent, excellent, excellent. Next season, we're going to do at least 2 performances. One is called Cotton Field to Concert Hall, right here on the Millennium stage. We'll give you the dates for that. Maybe if you could just visit our website, we'll have everything up and running for next season. In addition, we're also doing Soul to Soul right here on the Millennium stage. So we'd love for you to join us. Another program that we do is our master class series. That is funded. We thank God for this. We have recently gotten funding for this program, which is classes that we go into historically black colleges and universities, and it's funded by the National Endowment of the Arts. We've gone to Howard, Morgan, Hampton, Norfolk State, University of Kentucky, Jackson State, Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Atlanta, Livingstone, Morris Brown, Southern Texas Southern, University of North Carolina, and Winston-Salem State University. How about that? That's our master class series. We also get funds, and we want to thank our funder, Prince George's Arts and Humanities Council and the Maryland State Arts Council. But I would not be a good executive director if I did not ask you for your help as well. We need your help to continue doing what we're doing. But none of this would have been possible without our co-founder and executive director and our chairman of the board of directors, Ms. Pamela Simonson. She's going to tell you a little bit more about CAAPA.
Yes, we want to also thank so many people behind the scenes. We want to thank Harold Stephen, Greg Amaker, Norjay Wiggins, April Johnson, Bonita Adib, Katrilla Watson, and Dale Allen. And we would like to thank the Millennium Stage team, Ari, Diana, Matthew, and we would like to thank our sponsor, the Norman J. Fisher and Doris Fisher Foundation, for helping make this event possible. I would like to call on, for our finale, our artists once again, Dr. Lester Green on piano, Issachah Savage, and Arianna Zukerman for their final selection. Let's welcome them back to the stage.
And what are we doing?
Bringing color to the classics.
Thank you very much.
He's got the whole world in his hand. 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 He's got the woods and the waters in his hand. He's got the woods and the waters in his hand. He's got the sun and the moon right in his hand. He's got the whole world in his hand.
He's got the birds and the bees right in his hand. He's got the birds and the bees right in his hand. He's got the beast of the field right in his hand.
Thank you, and good night.
Thank you for joining us at Millennium Stage. As we prepare for another performance,